they say to wait for, because even if Kyle Shanahan came out right now and was like, Brock Purdy's fine, Trent Williams is, running on his ankle, what's really going to matter is how it feels tonight for them when the adrenaline has worn off after they get the MRIs and everything. So we're going to get the true injury updates tomorrow. But yeah, are you worried about facing the Rams now?
Good question.
Or the
And
Patriots, I guess?
yeah, and before I say that, I want to say one other thing. I mean, like I said, I'm going to give Shanahan criticism, but I'm not also going to just baby a certain player or a certain, a certain person. The fact of the matter in this game is Brock Purdy played bad. It's
Yeah.
just the fact of the matter. Does this mean he's going to play bad next week? No. Does this mean that his season is over? No. I don't think that there's. All it is Purdy played bad. He's got a chance to bounce back next week. Next week's a different opportunity. Now, going to the Rams game, the Rams have an argument to be the second best team in the NFC right now. I think that there is a legitimate argument that the Rams can have the second best team behind the 49ers in the NFC. And the reason for that is because they might have the best quarterback in the NFC at the moment. And I don't think that's an understatement. He might be in the top three. I think Dak Prescott could be in there with the MVP level play that he's kind of having. And then if you look at the rest, I mean, it might be Dak Prescott, Stafford, and Hurts. And I think that you can have a true argument that Stafford might be the best of the bunch at the moment. And so for that specific reason, I think the Rams right now are one of the scarier teams in the NFC. Now, do you view them as scary to the 49ers? I'll say yes and no. I think, like I said, they right now are probably the top contender to the 49ers, and they're going to likely play the 49ers not only in Week 18, but potentially in the playoffs as well. On top of that, when you talk about, the rest of the NFC teams, or I guess when you talk about the Rams specifically compared to the rest of the NFC teams, what team has the 49ers beat so many times over the last few weeks or the last few years? It's the Rams. They have, there's a difference when you look at the rosters of why the 49ers match up well against the Rams. Their physicality is good. When you look at the cornerback play for the Rams, it's tough for them to guard against the San Francisco receivers. The Rams do have an improving run game. They have Kyron Williams back. That's an important factor on top of having Stafford. But overall, when you look at the rosters, it's the 49ers have a better roster. That's kind of the one thing that you'll point to. But the Rams did beat the 49ers in the playoffs to go to the Super Bowl not too long ago, back in 2021. Completely different roster now. But I think if you're talking about contenders to the 49ers, the Rams have a good argument to potentially be number two.
I completely agree. I like that you mentioned the physicality. I think that the teams that would scare me the most in the Super Bowl would be teams like the Ravens, the Browns, the Bills. Like defense, we've really seen this offense struggle against competition. Like I think that's why fans have a hard time feeling scared about going up against Dallas, and maybe why the Rams were overlooked going into that NFC Championship game is because teams that I think fans and maybe media see as more like glitz and glam, we kind of expect them to not challenge the 49ers as much. And especially this year, we've really seen the only time this offense has been stunted is against these defenses that really win in the trenches. When we think about other games that have given the 49ers problems, it's when they've dominated in that O-line area when our defensive line hasn't been able to dominate as much. Both of those were really big struggles against the Browns, and I feel like this was the biggest test. And I was talking about this with either Jose or Marco going into this game, was that in my opinion this team was the most like Browns that we were going to face, except for they also had a defense that would be able to put up points against us, and it seemed like unfortunately, the 49ers, made their mistakes of their own. I know it was Ryan Hensley told me that there's something, let me see what exactly was the number of, like, once you throw a certain amount of interceptions, it's...
Oh, yeah. If you throw 3+ picks, the chance in history that you win is 9%.
Yeah. It's
But talking about the Rams real quick, one other thing I want to mention, and it's not apples to apples, but if you talk about the team that
Do you
kind of
think
gave the
Stafford is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy?
yeah, yeah,
I think prior to this year that wasn't a question, but then with
yeah,
Stafford
pretty
getting
elevated. But
almost all
Stafford,
the
in my opinion, is the best quarterback in the NFC right now. I firmly believe that. I think I'd take him over Dak, who had been in the MVP conversation. Probably would take him over Hurts, and I think I'd take him over Purdy as well. That's the kind of way that I see it. And again, this is not me saying Stafford is the MVP. No, no. But if you're talking about who's playing the best right now, I think it'd be hard for you to go anywhere but Stafford. Their one loss, if you're talking about the Rams in the last, I believe, 6 games, was to the Ravens. But the Rams in that game gave the blueprint of how to beat the Ravens. They lost on a walk-off punt return touchdown in overtime, but the Rams in that game ran the ball pretty damn well. Kyron Williams had 115 yards or 114 yards on 25 carries. Stafford was great. He threw for 3 touchdowns, nearly 300 yards. I mean, they gave you the blueprint on how to potentially beat the Ravens defense, which had been elite and electric up until that point. I think that that's another way, not an apples to apples comparison. Obviously, the 49ers played a little differently and it's different games, but they're another team that showed that they can compete with a competitor.
I completely agree. I feel like I said this before, but I think that the Rams have very like 2021 vibes where they had like a lull, but they've really been able to. Sean McVay has really gotten the best out of his offensive talent, his defensive talent, and they do seem to be playing their best football going into the playoffs. Yeah, it's going to be scary. I mean, we really fans and media like and the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan really wanted to get this win so that week 18 game wasn't an all-out game wasn't so important. And now both of these games are extremely important for the 49ers, especially with all these injuries.